I thought this could be an interesting idea for a video because everyone talks about the Chiefs and their bold decision back in 2017 to trade up for Patrick Mahomes, a decision that was controversial at the time and is one of the best calls of all time, given the fact that he's now, already, I think, a Hall of Fame quarterback, still in his mid-20s. Definitely was worth trading up to pick number 10. But I think a lot of people don't talk about the other side of it. The Buffalo Bills were picking at 10 and decided to trade away from that pick. Let's talk about what they got back from it and, at the end of the day, who won the Patrick Mahomes trade, which feels obvious, but we'll still get into it. So first, the trade itself. So Kansas City received pick number 10, and they gave up a good chunk for it. Again, they were picking at 27 before that pick, so they had to move up a good amount of spots to make sure they could get Mahomes. So they ended up giving up pick 27 in 2017, which ended up being Tre'Davious White. Really good corner for Buffalo. So that makes it a little easier to stomach, right? You were able to get a star player with pick 27, and again, not all quarterbacks work out. If Patrick Mahomes didn't end up being Patrick Mahomes, the Bills would have felt great about this. Now, the picks they got also in this trade were John Johnson and Rashad Evans, two players who did not get drafted by the Buffalo Bills. Johnson drafted by the Rams, Evans drafted by the Titans. So, because of that, who did they end up actually getting on their roster? Well, first, let's do the John Johnson trade. So, who the Bills got on the top is on the top of the screen. Who the Rams got is on the bottom of the screen. And this is actually a bad trade by the Bills. You look back at it, Zay Jones and then Damontae Kazee, who was actually selected by the Falcons. But then, Gerald Everett and John Johnson were two contributors for the Rams, two good players. So that was actually really good drafting by the Rams more than anything. But in hindsight, definitely that's maybe a trade they would have liked to have back in that scenario. The other trade, though, was a huge win. I mean, they ended up trading up a little bit. They got Tremaine Edmonds in this situation, who, they gave up pick 65, got 154 back. So kind of a trade up and trade down to make it work. But they traded up in the first round to get Tremaine Edmonds, who is no longer a part of their team, but was really good for them for his rookie contract, and then Rashad Evans ended up not being that great. So, one trade that didn't work out too well, one trade that did work out too well, and also they nailed their first-round pick 27. So the overall list is what follows. It's, the Bills got Tre'Davious White, Tremaine Edmonds, Siran Neal, and then also, the pick that the Falcons used for Damontae Kazee. Also, they gave up Patrick Mahomes, Gerald Everett, John Johnson, Rashad Evans, and Brandon Parker. Brandon Parker, also should mention, is an okay offensive lineman. He's a contributor once again for the Raiders. So as a whole, there's kind of no denying that this is a disastrous trade, given the fact that Mahomes is like the best player in football. That obviously makes it tough. But here's where things get interesting. So in that 2018 draft, because remember, they got an extra first-round pick in 2018. That was the pick that eventually got used on Rashad Evans. They traded up to get Tremaine Edmonds in that scenario. So that's what happened in that. They had an extra first-round pick, right? Because they had the pick that I just talked about that they got from the Chiefs, but they had their own first-round pick, which they used to trade up to pick number 7, where they drafted Josh Allen. So that's where things get a little bit interesting. Maybe they still make that move regardless, but maybe part of why they felt they could trade up and they could afford to do that was because they had the extra draft capital. And maybe there's a scenario where the Bills do not end up with Josh Allen had they not made this trade. Now, again, would you rather have Mahomes or Josh Allen? Most people are going to say Mahomes. But would you rather have Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, and Tre'Davious White? Okay, most people are still going to say Mahomes, but at least it's a little bit closer now in terms of what you can get, and makes the conversation a little bit more interesting. Now, again, they didn't trade for Josh Allen, so it's not fair to put that in the list. This is definitely something that, in hindsight, was a miss. But again, at the end of the day, most teams, when they trade back for another team trying to get a quarterback, they end up feeling pretty good about it because you typically get a good haul, and they did. Tremaine Edmonds and Tre'Davious White for a trade back, that's a good selection. You feel pretty good about that. They don't feel bad about who they got. They just feel bad that the player they traded away, or the pick they traded away, ended up being the best player in football right now. Now, for the Chiefs' perspective, this is obviously a win. You got Mahomes, and it's a good example too, though, of like, okay, listen, missing out on Tre'Davious White and Tremaine Edmonds, yeah, that sucks. They were good players, but at the end of the day, who cares? I mean, you were able to get a superstar quarterback. The risk is totally worth two good quality players, one of which only played for 4 years for the Buffalo Bills. So only one of them is left on the roster at this point, whereas the Chiefs are going to be competing for Super Bowls for the next 15 years, we assume, and already have two of them because of the Patrick Mahomes pick. Just a good example of, if you like a quarterback, don't be afraid to trade up. And if you don't like a quarterback, don't be afraid to trade down, because maybe it'll end up with you getting Josh Allen the next year. Who knows? But just an interesting thing that happened. So yeah, that's what I thought. Those are my opinions on that. What do you guys think about this trade? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.